The Holy Gospel according to Luke, chapter 12.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give alms. Make purses for yourselves that do not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Be dressed for action and have your lamps lit. Be like those who are waiting for their master to return from the wedding banquet, so that they may open the door for him as soon as he comes and knocks. Blessed are those slaves whom the master finds alert when he comes. Truly, I tell you, he will fasten his belt and have them sit down to eat, and he will come and serve them. If he comes during the middle of the night or near dawn and finds them so, blessed are those slaves. But know this, if the owner of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ. Years ago, I saw a series of humorous greeting cards that featured made-up words to describe phenomena of human behavior that, when you take a moment to pause and think, are rather silly. I'm sorry I can't remember any of the words themselves. That probably would add to the funniness of it. But, for example, there was one card that featured a word and defined it as the fallacy of repeatedly returning to open the refrigerator door every few moments in the hope that something new has materialized since the last time you looked. Guilty. Another was turning the volume down on the car radio so that you can better see the street address you're looking for. Think about it. And my personal favorite, the fallacy that repeatedly pushing the elevator button will result in the elevator arriving sooner. And we do that, don't we? If it seems the elevator isn't coming as quickly as it should be, even if we see the button lit up, and even if we see the numbers above the doorway gradually going down or up, we can hear the mechanical whirring of the motor and the pulleys and the shaft, but something's wrong. It's not getting here as fast as it should. And we think, rather than being patient for the elevator to arrive, and we know it will, we should exert control over the situation. Same thing when you get a snack from one of those vending machines with the spiral mechanisms on display that turn to release the snack you ordered, and the spiral stops turning before your snack drops down to the slot where you can reach for it and grab it. How often do people pound on the machine in hopes of forcing the snack to drop like it was supposed to? Has that ever worked in all of human history? Probably not. But people still do it. It's that frantic need to assert control of the situation. Now, I'm not suggesting that we should never be proactive or exercise our agency to influence affairs around us in a way that is suitable. But there is something to be said for the idea that sometimes we need to just let things unfold in their time, especially when nothing particularly critical is at stake. And we really don't have that much control over the situation anyway. And while these might be minor examples of human impatience and frustration, we can take a look at some biblical examples where impatience and a need to exert control didn't work out so well. Remember Abraham and Sarah? God promised them that they would have descendants as numerous as the stars. But as they were getting on in years without any children, they started to wonder if God were asleep at the wheel. Maybe we need to nudge God's hand just a little, they thought. So Sarah told Abraham to father a child with her handmaid, Hagar, that child being Ishmael. That didn't work out so well. Jealousy crept into the family system, and Hagar and Ishmael ended up being run out into the wilderness. And some say the moral of the story is that Abraham's and Sarah's impatience with God and their felt need to exert control over the situation is what got them in trouble. In time, Sarah had her own child, Isaac. And the thinking goes, if they would have just been patient for that to happen, for God to do God's thing in God's own time, everyone involved would have been spared a lot of misery. Living in the present. Living in God's present. It's easier said than done. But when we do it, it centers us. It centers us in who God is calling us to be. So much of our existence as human beings is oscillating between the guilt and the regrets of the past and anxiety for the future. And what Jesus invites us to trust today is to trust God enough to be present in the present, to accept that God is with us in this present moment, providing, leading, nurturing. Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. The sins, the guilt, the regrets of the past are forgiven. God is leading us into the future. Be in this moment, and more importantly, be assured that God is in this moment with us. Now you might say, all well and good, but I don't know what that means. I don't have a moment when I'm not worried about what just happened or what's going to happen next. Believe me, I get it. And that's the rub, isn't it? To exist in each moment as a slice of eternity, without regret for the past and without worry for the future. But to just be with God. God who forgives what is past and who provides for the future. Now, there are a couple ways we could misunderstand this, what it is to live in the present, at least in the sense to which Jesus calls us. One is a sort of hedonistic, Epicurean sense in which we simply live for the pleasure of the here and now without a thought for tomorrow. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die, much like the rich fool in last Sunday's gospel thought he would do. The other mistake would be sort of a Zen approach in which we just try to erase all consciousness of the past and present and future and only live in the moment in a sort of abstracted kind of way, as if the past and the future don't even exist. Either of these has a way of disrespecting the past and disregarding the future. What Jesus calls us to, rather, is to live in the present, trusting God with both the past and the future. Trusting that all that was good with our past enjoys God's blessing, and that which wasn't has God's forgiveness and redemption. Trusting that the future, and I don't want to be so glib as to say it's in God's hands, but to know that God is leading us into what is good, and that whatever is tragic or traumatic ahead of us, God will walk through it with us. And then, to be rooted in God's present, confident that we are in God's presence now. Jesus goes on in this reading to exhort us to vigilance and preparation. God is like the master returning from a wedding banquet, and we want to have our proverbial lamps lit when God arrives. God is like a thief in the night, and we want to be on our guard when God breaks into our lives, so to speak. So Jesus is not inviting us to a hedonistic, live-for-the-moment feast in which we forget the past and disregard the future in a drunken stupor. Nor is Jesus calling us to a detached, Zen-like moment in which we are isolated from the past and the future. God reconciles past and future into God's present. Think about it. How often do you find yourself living in the present moment with the perspective that God has either blessed or forgiven the past and that God will provide for the future, and knowing that you were able to be content in the moment? Perhaps not often enough, right? Perhaps we need to take those moments of reflection, those moments of contentedness, those moments of centering ourselves in prayer, and knowing that it is God's good pleasure to give us the kingdom and all the good things that come with it, and be content in that. And with that calmness of spirit, that confidence, from there we can keep our vigil, awaiting God's arrival into our lives, and working to prepare the world for God's coming. Not with impatience or anxiety, not with worry and regret, but content that God is with us now, and patiently but joyfully awaiting all that God has in store. Amen.
Amen.